Hey, greetings everyone. This is Jules Leyhe with Guitar and Camera. Today I'm going to talk about the evolution of the early days of Eric Clapton. So Eric Clapton is obviously a guitar god and a very important musical icon of the last 50 years. He is one of the British guitar players like Jeff Beck, Jimmy Page, Eric Clapton. Those three have a whole lot to do. There are more, but those guys really carried the torch of what became rock guitar. Mostly blues-inspired playing. Clapton definitely has a tremendous amount of respect for Robert Johnson, B.B. King, Muddy Waters, Hubert Sumlin, Freddie King, just all of the blues guys that Chicago blues, Mississippi blues, acoustic blues, you name it. That's really where Clapton's early days of playing are all inspired by and really come from. One of my favorite early Clapton recordings is the Blues Breakers record with John Mayall. He's playing a Les Paul, and I'm pretty sure he's playing through a Marshall. And the tone and the playing are really just wonderful. He's just kind of like, it's no BS blues guitar back in the early days, like mid 60s. He really is setting the bar high as far as what that style of guitar playing is like. One of the tunes on that Blues Breakers record that's my favorite, or one of my favorites, is Hideaway, which is a Freddie King instrumental. But the Freddie King way of playing it is a little different. Freddie King plays it down here. Right, using the open strings. So instead of playing it down in the open position, Clapton's playing it up here like this. Listen to how much warmer the tone is, and you get more control. You get to put vibrato on the notes. So like this. And that's note for note. There are a couple little things that he's doing a teeny bit differently down at the bottom. So, but as far as playing the melody up here is concerned, that is a Clapton thing where he's all about the phrasing and how he articulates the notes. Most of his playing is going to be pretty simple as far as harmonically what's going on. Blues scale, pentatonic. Nothing we haven't heard of or heard before. He really emphasizes on things like vibrato, just tone. He was one of the first guys to really crank a Gibson guitar. In the mid 60s, in that sort of era, he was doing the high gain thing. And when you crank a Gibson guitar, especially, there's something that happens with these humbucking pickups. It just sings. It's just huge, the tone that you can get. So he was one of the pioneers of all that. Another tune that I love from the Blues Breakers record is All Your Love. You can hear it's kind of a laid back groove where he's focusing on just getting tone out of the guitar. To me, I feel like he's almost, he doesn't have anything to prove. I feel like I can hear that Clapton is just figuring out how to coax different sounds out of the guitar. One of the ways that you can do that is by picking in different spots on the string, or like if you pick over the fretboard, for example, that has a very different sound than if you picked way down by the bridge. Right? So that's kind of like a thinner, brighter, more sort of pokey attack. And that's actually really nice. As far as All Your Love is concerned, listen to how I'm bending the strings. Just trying to do this sort of Clapton thing. There are a couple of Clapton-isms, licks that he loves to do that I'll try to play, but it's really just about smooth. He's like super smooth, nice phrasing, even. And yeah, so here's a little bit of All Your Love. Check this out. So again, this is just sort of in the style of like the All Your Love licks, right? Things like this. That's a great phrase. He's not noodling, he's not meandering, it's just right to the point. And this is because he just knows all the guys like Otis Rush, Albert King, B.B. King. These guys who there's really no BS in their playing. They just cut right to the point. They're not like shredding and playing a ton of notes. They just know what they're saying and they just say it. So I think that's a great thing to take away from his playing and from a tune like All Your Love. All right, so then obviously I think kind of what Clapton's probably most known for, or what he's best known for, is Cream. There's just a ton of great tunes. The band is amazing. Jack Bruce and Ginger Baker and Clapton, when those three are going and they are just rocking, I mean, it's like, look out. That's no joke. That's some of the all-time great rock and roll music for sure. And like I mentioned before, Clapton is playing Gibson guitars in this era. So he's playing a Les Paul a lot, but he's also playing a 335. They're very similar. And I'm just going to keep my Les Paul going now. But I want to just show you, as far as like the high gain stuff that Clapton's doing. One of the most famous recordings of his is Crossroads live at the Fillmore. And he has this kind of, check this out. He has this sort of... So this is like high gain, you know, he's cranking a Marshall. In this case, I'm not playing through a Marshall. It's a Dumble clone that I'm playing through. So it's not quite doing the Marshall thing, but it's similar. And I keep mentioning this, but the high gain thing, it's not like rah. It's more of like just exciting the harmonics in the guitar and making your tone super rich. And Clapton and Hendrix, Pete Townsend, those are some of the guys that come to mind when thinking about the early days of this like high distortion playing. And so when you hear him playing Crossroads at the Fillmore, the blues playing, the lines that he's actually playing are beautiful. They're great. But a lot of what's going on is this like, holy cow, someone's turned their amp all the way up and they're discovering how this works. You know, he's doing all this stuff way up high. Those sorts of licks, that tone, especially rolled back on the neck pickup, it's just beautiful. It's gorgeous. The Allman Brothers, right around this era, they're doing the Les Paul through a Marshall thing too. That's another world of great guitar tone to check out. But Clapton's one of the first ones to do this, cranking a Marshall. And that Crossroads live at the Fillmore is just one of the all-time great recordings of his and of Cream's. So there is a video of Clapton right around this time, mid-60s, where he's asked about one of the things that makes his playing unique at the time, which was that he's using a Wawa pedal. And I've got my wah pedal, so I want to show you and talk a little teeny bit about, in that video, he's explaining how you can really articulate your notes and play a phrase a lot like a vocalist would. Obviously, we're kind of stuck with wah wah with the wah pedal, but if we pay attention and we really try to make it correlate with what we're playing, we can do things like this. So I'm just in the key of A, right? So, you know, wah pedal is funny. It has a million uses. You can use it for funk. You can use it for R&B soul. You can use it for like shredding. It's really fun. But this sort of like just making your guitar talk you can wah every single note. You can have it correlate with like a rhythm that you're playing, or you can just have it like sometimes actually Clapton would leave, there's that woman tone, which you can achieve by either rolling the tone knob all the way back, or in this case, I have the wah cocked all the way back so that it's kind of rolling off the high end like this. And listen to how this sounds. I'm going to turn the gain back up so you can hear. Right? That's distinct. That sounds just like that's that sort of, they call it the woman tone that Clapton had. And add a ton of gain. Sometimes what might seem undesirable at first is like a signature tone to someone else. So with the wah pedal, obviously Jimi Hendrix was doing this at the same time with like Voodoo Child. A lot of these things are all kind of popping out at the same time. Clapton has a distinct, unique way of using the wah pedal. I think the White Room solo is probably like the most iconic of his with a wah pedal. So check that one out. And Jack Bruce is singing on that tune. It's really awesome. But check out that video of Clapton talking about using a wah pedal. He's smoking a cigarette and he's playing his Gibson SG that has the awesome paint job. And check out White Room. That's a just great recording of his too. All right, so one of my favorite all-time Eric Clapton moments, possibly my favorite, is actually his cameo appearance on the Beatles record, the White Album. He actually does the guitar solo on the George Harrison tune, While My Guitar Gently Weeps. And he is just pouring it on with this one, with something that I talked about earlier. To me, the way that he plays the opening figure of the solo, obviously the guitar is just, it's weeping. And let me show you kind of where I think he's doing this. You can do this a couple different places. So the song is in the key of A. And you could come up here and go. But what I think he's doing to get more action on his bends is actually going up here, where you go like this. So if you bend this 14th fret note on the G string, the A, right? That's kind of where I hear him doing those licks, especially because he's going up and he's bending, he's doing this sort of. If we're playing this beginning part down here, we'd have to end up coming up here. So I love starting that solo like this. Right? And doing the vibrato weeping thing. One point on that that's important to me, or at least I like to do it this way, is I like to bend that string down like this as opposed to bending up, because our fingers are naturally stronger bending in, right? So if you can afford to, see how if you pull it in, you have more wiggle room. You have more control over the bend, and you really do want it to sound like somebody crying or something. And another thing about that solo in particular that's just great is that he's taking his sweet time. It's thoughtful and it's well thought out. He's not just playing for the sake of playing. And I feel like this is something that he always does. Like, he's always a very musical player. He doesn't need sophisticated, fancy harmony or anything to be great. He's just always very musical and plays like what the moment needs. And I think that might be the greatest compliment you could give someone, especially a guitar player, We guitar players, we don't need to breathe while we're playing. So check this out. To illustrate the point, I could just keep doing this all day, and I don't need to ever stop. And it gets actually pretty annoying after a little while, right? So we don't want to do that. That's like the opposite of Clapton. He'll just go like this. Right? And it's like, whoa. All of that noodling I just did a moment ago, all the details are gone. But in that little phrase I just played, that sort of Clapton way of just simple and right to the point, just like a great bluesman would, that's the key to the whole thing. Check out that While My Guitar Gently Weeps solo. And if you didn't know, that's Eric Clapton guesting on that. Definitely one of my favorite appearances of his entire career. All right, hey, I'm so glad you could enjoy this video and join me today. I hope you learned a couple things about Eric Clapton. Obviously, he's still touring, or at least before COVID, he was still touring. I saw him at the recently built Chase Center with my dad about 1.5 years ago, and he sounded great. He was out there, he just really sounded great. The place was packed and he rocked. So it was wonderful to see. He's still doing it, still legendary, and just a really big inspiration to all of us guitar players these days. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please drop a comment down below if you have any questions or any pointers or things I might have missed. Obviously, I'm kind of pointing out some of my favorite highlighted moments and playing techniques of Clapton's. Maybe you want to drop a line and let us know some of yours or something that I might have not thought of. Also, if you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel. We're going to have all sorts of videos like this, performances, lessons, tips on gear, and just playing overall. So just stay tuned and we will catch you next time. Hope you have a good one.